Hello, everyone, and welcome to Office Hours, where we answer your media and tech-related production questions every single day. Alexander Knight in Port Coquitlam, British Columbia, is our reader today. Alexander, what's our first question?
First question is coming from Pedro G. Gonzalez III in Washington, D.C. What is the process for making a 4K 60p encoder out of an M4 Mac Mini? Does Office Hours have a tutorial somewhere?
Yeah, Guy Cochran's going to help you out here. Guy?
I don't think we have a tutorial anywhere, but I just got to say, for $599 for a Mac Mini M4, it's pretty crazy how far we've come. A few years ago, I was selling these Wowza Clearcasters, and they were $4,000 to $5,000. And when you went and hit 4K in HD, it was pretty normal. The machine sound, it was a server-style big orange rack, 19-inch rack mount unit running Linux. And when you would hit stream in 4K, it sounded like a jet engine taking off, and it was that loud through the entire stream. And now with a Mac Mini, it's the size of a couple packs of cigarettes. I mean, it's super tiny, and you could do 4K. So there's different softwares. You can do it for free with OBS. I'll quickly just show MimoLive. So I think MimoLive is like $70 a month. And from the top, it's pretty easy just to say new document, and you could say streaming. And it has a preset right here for 4K. You tell it 60, and you tell it 2160. You make the document, and then in here, so you choose your video source. Let's just say it's one of these PTZ Optics cameras. So that pops up, and then when you want to stream, you enter in your streaming URL, your stream key. I've got it actually streaming right now to YouTube. So you pop in this stream URL, you copy your stream key, and then when you hit this little button right here, it'll light up red like this one, and then you'll get the status. I did have to modify the data rate to go up to 24,000 kilobits or 24 megabit. The default is anemically low for some reason. I don't know why. The default settings are set to 2,500. The suggested by YouTube would be more like 25,000 kilobits. So that's my answer. Maybe Alex has a different one.
Alex Lindsay, you want to hop in?
Yeah, something like, the easiest one would be something like MimoLive or OBS. OBS will just take it and code it out as well. You don't have to add anything else to that. If you really want to go bare bones, what you want to do is think about installing Homebrew. So you're going to install Homebrew, and then you're going to install from there FFmpeg. And from FFmpeg, you can run a shell command that's going to take the video that's coming into it and pump it out. And so now you have a piece of hardware that's just doing and it can do H.264, H.265. Within that command, you can make all kinds of definitions of the quality and so on and so forth. So all of that can be a fairly, you can make that that turns that Mac Mini pretty much into just a hardware appliance that's going to do the thing. And it should easily do, I haven't tested it. It's a good thing. I'll think about trying to put this together over the weekend on a Mac Mini to see what the usage is, but I bet you 4K 60 will not go over 20%, on it. So I'm sure that it can handle it. So, but if you want to figure out how to do that, literally just go to ChatGPT and say, how do I, from start to, I have a brand new Mac Mini M4. I want to turn it into an encoder with FFmpeg. What are all the steps that I need? And it will give you the steps that you need to do that. And I did that. I looked at it. It's exactly the stuff that I did on a bigger PC that I had. So it looked very familiar. so I think it hit the mark pretty well. So that's a way to kind of turn your Mac Mini into an encoder.
Pedro, thank you for the question. Let's go to our next question.
Next one's coming in from Paul Wallace in Austin, Texas. And Paul asks, the $99 podcast recorder made for USB mics, Zoom PodTrak with 2 mic inputs, 2 headphone outputs, and AI noise reduction. But is it professional enough for office hours?
Jeffrey Powers is going to give you his opinion. Jeffrey?
So it's a depends situation here. If the average podcaster is going to probably really enjoy this without a problem, when it comes to getting on the professional level of the audio, there's a lot of USB podcast mics that are really starting to be impressive, but there are still some things with this device that I'm a little bit weary about. The biggest thing is, when you have something that doesn't lock into place, for a microphone, and you're taking it out, and people are running around with cables and doing this. There's always that possibility that they could yank that USB cable right out of the unit. So that's the one thing that I really noticed on there. The other thing is the battery. It takes 4 AA batteries, which makes me wonder if this thing is not as powered as I'd like it to be. Stuff like this, we're getting to the point where they can make a battery that could be rechargeable, and I'd really love to see something like that inside the unit. I'm not sure how it would sound with a power plug-in, because a lot of these smaller units usually come out with background noise when you plug it into the wall or plug it into a computer especially. So those are the things that I would look for. But the biggest thing is, I think this is more for the average podcaster, the person getting into YouTube or creating their own shows and want to be as mobile as possible.
Alex Lindsay.
It's actually a really interesting product. I don't know if it's new or whether I just haven't seen it before. The interesting thing about it is that what it does is so instead of one of the big problems for Zoom is that the self noise on the XLRs and how they handle being overmodulated has never been very good. And so it's always one of those things that you're just like, oh, it's going to be noisy. It's not going to have. But what they've done here, because usually I'm not a big Zoom fan, but I don't know if I'm a Zoom fan yet, but I'm intrigued. So what they've done is they said, okay, we're just going to have you do a USB mic. So that means that you're depending on it has to be a USB mic. There's no XLR inputs here. So they're basically pushing the work of the preamp. The reason it's so inexpensive is they're pushing the work of the preamp out to the mic. And so they're just getting the USB back. Now they'll still, and maybe they have, I just don't see any XLRs. It looks like all of it is that, and then it has a headphone. So it just kind of manages the record from a USB and it appears that can still interface with the computer. Again, it is, James says price is very cheap, so they must be cutting corners. Where they're cutting the corners is that there's no A to D converter. So there's no preamp, no A to D converter, no 48 volt. There's none of that. It's just USB input. And so it's an interesting approach to this, is that you get some MV7s or 2 MV6s and this little recorder. Now you have something local that will record that. It's interesting because it's used as an interface as well. For $99, theoretically, you could send this to someone and have them push record on it, so that this is like potentially an easy way to double end the record. If they made it remote controllable, it'd be even better. Anyway, it's an interesting product. I'm going to have to look at it a little bit closer.
Let's go to the next question.
Next one's in from Rayan Smith in the Trinidad, West Indies, and he asks, Insta X5 now has 1/1.2H sensors and replacement lens we can change ourselves. Would you be getting one?
Jeffrey Powers, come back in and tell us what's your thought.
I love my 360 cameras, and I would definitely be getting the X5 if I had the money right now. But it's like $550 for the X5. It does a great job. I've seen a few videos on it, and I've been pretty impressed. I was a little concerned on the low light. There was one video where he was in a room, and it was better than the X4 on the low light, but the color scheme was completely different. And he was looking at I think it was a yellow poster, and on the X5 it looked a little bit more orange than it did yellow. And I'm not exactly sure if it was an orange poster or a yellow poster, which was the big concern there. Other than that, he was walking around. He was in, I believe, somewhere in China, and he was walking around using the onboard microphone, looking for seams. I didn't see any seams in the X5. That was pretty impressive there. But it looks like a very decent 360 camera, especially if you're going to be taking 360 and converting it into HD video.
Ronny Hofsoy.
Yeah, totally agreed with what Jeffrey said. But let's face it, this is not a professional camera. It's a good consumer camera, and this is what we are talking about. And two or three of the things that I was appreciating was the ability to change the lenses yourself. That is a big thing on these cameras that are being hammered all the time. I have one of the older ones that is having problems in dark areas, and where we live, there are some darkness all year round. And looking now at the X5, it's really gotten really good and much better at low light noise. It's still there, but it's reduced a lot. Another thing that I think is really cool is the quick lock that is now, we can watch it now on the video. The quick lock has been kind of copying DJI that had success with magnetic locking, which makes it really fast and easy to change between the different mounting points. So if you have an X3 or X4, I would probably not upgrade. But if you have an X2, you probably would be upgrading. I have an X2, so I will be upgrading.
Thank you for the answers, Ronny. For those of you who are new to the show, we have a Q&A system that really drives this entire show. So if you'd like to get into that, you just go to officehours.global/join and follow the yellow brick road there. The little crumbs, it says, go here next, and you can sign up. Once you do that, we'll send you an email within a day or two. And then you can not just ask questions in the Mukana system, but you can also vote on them and discuss the show's questions. We have a live show community that kind of assembles every day to talk about this, and there's even more information than the panelists impart by reading through the Q&A system while we're doing it. So that's officehours.global/join. Next question.
Next one comes in from Guy Cochran in Seattle, Washington, asking, what do you think of the next-gen auto framing shown by Greg Gibson at NAB? And there's a YouTube
Who is that Guy Cochran guy? And Greg Gibson, both friends of the show a long time, and Guy is, of course, on the panel here. Jeffrey Powers is going to start us off with his thoughts.
Yeah, I love that. That was the one of the things that I really got to enjoy since I didn't go to NAB was watching Greg do this demonstration. It's pretty amazing what you can do with AI and bringing people into frame. But the biggest thing about doing anything AI for PTZs is the lighting. I found that if you have a well-lit stage and a darker outline, then the cameras will stay in play a lot better. With this camera system, it was really impressive how he had the four participants move around. Of course, there is a little bit of manual control saying how many people are in the frame as they're going, which is why Greg's not getting captured into this four-person shot here. But once again, like I said, it has to do with a lot of the lighting, and I also like the fact that it didn't do I call it the AI shake, and that's basically when the AI happens, it just doesn't know where to go, so it just does this little shake, and so you kind of have to stop it every now and then and restart. And I didn't see that in here, so I'm very impressed with the control panel that you get with Sony, and be able to do a lot of control, but there's still got to be a person behind that to make sure that camera doesn't go off into the distance.
Alex Lindsay.
Yeah, number one, I'm really excited that Greg got to present on the Sony stage. It's really awesome. And the fact that Greg is that close to Sony talking about these, Greg pushes these cameras really hard, and he knows what it takes to have it look good. And so I think that when we know that he has that interaction with Sony, I feel much better about the idea. Everything that I saw in the demo, of course, demos are demos, but everything I saw in the demo looked really good. I mean, if you look at this person pacing, it's doing at least as well as a person would do, as someone who's moving around and so on and so forth. The person might be a little calmer than that. Let him walk a little around, but you can see how it found another person. it's going to follow him off. Now, it didn't follow her across. It depends on, and those are the kind of things, those crossing, they're showing that on purpose because it is, it's hard. And I'm assuming that what's happened is it's been told which person to pay attention to. And so it's ignoring the other ones and paying attention to the one that it has, properly framing them. It's really pretty incredible. And typically we use these FR7s a lot. And so I'm very excited about the idea. Typically the way we use them, we have one operator with one handheld camera or hand operated camera because we want to be able to jump to things. And there's some really complicated shots that we have to do. So we have one person there. We have another person usually running 4 of the FR7s. And in that environment, being able to have something that's going to automatically follow some folks would be really great, because it's not like we have a bunch of different operators there to manage that. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that we just don't have, it's just limited for space. We don't have a lot of places to put the operators, and we don't have a lot of places to put another controller. So having this do a little bit of that work for you, it's not something you're going to leave on its own, but having to do some of the work for you is pretty impressive, and this looks like an amazing solution.
Ronny Hofstøy, your thoughts?
Yeah, and this June it also comes for the FR7, so this is just a few weeks until you have the version 3. And what everyone that uses Sony knows that it has this impeccable autofocus. We all know that. And what is kind of intriguing for me, or kind of revolutionizing, is Sony has moved away from just eye focus. They are actually now having body focus, so it interprets the entire skeleton and tries to understand how the person moves, and then automatically, based on that, knows where the eye is at every moment. So even if persons turn around and look away from the camera, when they turn back, the AI knows that the skeleton has just turned around and the eyes should be on top of the shoulders. At least it should be. Not always there. So this is what makes this really intriguing for me. And they also have this same type of tracking for one of the stills, or the 2 stills cameras, the Z200 and the 800. That's the other naming. But the problem with those cameras is that the tracking is almost the same type that we see here on the PT sets. But one big thing is when you enable that tracking on those still cameras, the SDI port dies. So you can't have both. And that is kind of a bummer. We were planning to get a lot of the Z200 cameras, and we can't do that based on the fact that I still need then to add bidirectional converters, etc. I would really love to hear what Sony has planned for this, and if there is a possible future update that actually make it possible to both have tracking active and the SDI port active. So it's probably because the scalers are being used for either one of them.
Guy Cochran.
Yeah, this is just super exciting stuff. I mean, this is beta right now, so it's been going on for months. Actually, I saw it first. There was a little behind the scenes at Infocom last year, and they took some of us up to a secret room and showed us the competitors' products along with this technology. And it is face independent. You could store up to 40 faces if you do want to do that kind of do-si-do on stage where you just want to stay with the host, and any guests that come on, let another camera track them. So that's the interesting thing about having Greg do this presentation is he says in the presentation that he's a one-man band. And I've seen him do it where he's just got 4 browser windows. So he's just touching faces on the browser windows, and he's using some of these lenses. In this demo, he shows going to f1.2, which is super shallow, and I think he's on a 50 there. So 1.2 on a 50 is super shallow, and the autofocus is nailing it, even in low light. As the presenter steps back a little bit into the darkness, you can see that it's still tracking and still holds that focus, which is phenomenal because some people are afraid of robots taking our jobs. I mean, this is an example where you could look at it that way, or you could look at it as, hey, you could get more done, more shots. You're not paying for hotels. You're not paying for planes. You're not paying for Ubers and all that stuff that comes with flying in an op, or if they're local, hiring them and going through all the 1099 and whatever. You could literally have these cameras. They're expensive. These are not cheap. We're talking 12 grand, 15 grand for a FR7, AM7. So you're in a different league, and when you start getting 5 of these, like Noah Sargent has 4 or 5, Greg has 4 or 5. I mean, you're talking, car money. So it's a significant investment. And some of the folks that already have infrastructure in UE 150s, they're going to be taking a strong look at shifting over, I'm sure, as these become more prevalent, especially in the rental space. I don't even know if in my market here in Seattle, I don't think anybody has them in town. So I'm intrigued to see how well Sony takes some of the market share back from Panasonic.
For those of you interested in even more office hour style content, tonight, Thursday, The Rundown. David Paskin hosts a panel that takes a deep dive into the why behind the latest tech. It's a great show, lots of fun to watch. So that's tonight, 6 p.m. on the same place that you get your normal daily show. And we have other shows going on. One, for example, Extra Hours on Monday for those who are around the world. This is great for those of you who the timing of the main show kind of means you're getting up to watch at 3 o'clock in the morning. These different time zones really help with that. Tuesday, we have special shows coming up occasionally. And on Wednesday, the longest running show here on Office Hours, Conversations with Tony Mobley. So lots of things to watch here. Let's get to our next question.
This one's coming from Peter Rosado in Las Vegas, Nevada. We're using Amazon Web Services Elemental for our work TV stream to a website with MediaStore support ending in November 2025. What are our options to replace it? I am new to this, so I'm learning about it. Webpresenter to YouTube. Stay with AWS. Thanks.
Alex Lindsay is going to give you some suggestions. Alex?
Well, I think the question is, what do you need from that archive? So if the archive, if you need more control over the archive and you're willing to pay for it, then I think that there's some options with Media Package and S3 that you should be able to use to continue to use AWS in that area. If YouTube's okay, and even if you're not putting out something that is private, I mean, you definitely can be streaming to YouTube and making it available as a listed or unlisted event. And so if it's a public service that you're doing, then putting it on YouTube probably makes sense either way. So people can find it if these are for instance, council sessions or other things like that you want to have available to folks. YouTube is a great place to put it.
Guy Cochran.
Yeah, as Alex was saying, depending on the current workflow and where it's going and how the automation looks and how you want to retrieve this stuff, one of the interesting booths that was visited by Omar in after hours for NAB coverage, we talked to the folks at TVU Networks, and they have some super powerful ways of storing your video and recalling it and then sharing it, and you can share that back out as an SRT feed if you needed to, or as a file. So something like a CDN or some kind of content management system that would allow you to not only index and store the video, but to have all that metadata as well. So it really depends on what needs to be stored and for how long and who needs to pull it in what format they need to pull it, and do they need any of that captioning or any of the other bits and pieces that come with some of this long-term storage, and then what's the backup process for all this. So there's a lot more questions to answer this one with a really great answer. So hopefully that helps them.
Next question.
This one's from Paul Vahus in Austin, Texas. What would you do to improve this all-in-one studio on a table?
And Ronny Hofsoy is going to start us off here.
Yeah, first and foremost, I am allergic to all-in-one solutions, and the reason for that is when you are tapping or working on your table, you will have vibrations going through the table, out on the magic arms, etc., and just start vibrating your camera. So I always tend to have cameras standing on their own feet. But I saw this other guy the other day here. He was using microphone stands with the heavy bass like Koenig and Meyer or K&M, with just the microphone bass that you have rock singers on the stage using. So a solid bass and then just a microphone stand and an adapter on top. That was kind of a cool thing to make the footprint a little bit smaller if your room is tight. Another thing is that when you are having a microphone, so my microphone is now connected to my table, and I really hate it because I can't be doing stuff like this. It travels up through the arm and into the microphone. So, of course, I could have my microphone in a big cage and with the springs, etc., to save some of that. But I tend to have isolated camera for itself on the floor, microphone for themselves on the floor, and of course, displays, etc., can easily, and lighting can easily be mounted in the table. That's not a problem.
Jeffrey Powers.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I on the same way. I mean, I do have my microphone mounted to my table, and when I'm doing any type of review and I set something down on the table, you hear a clump there. Plus, I also have, I do a different type of YouTube than what this person is talking about, and that's basically a talking head video mostly, with most likely with B-roll that's included. And I go through multiple cameras because you got to see my desk to see the product. You got to see my face. You got to see, well, you don't need to see my face, but you can see my face. I got an overhead camera that shoots right down on the thing here, and it's not all connected to the table because the table needs to move. Sometimes I don't even need I don't even use the table, so I take the table out of the way. So it's very important that it needs to be as independent from the rest of the gear. But in looking at this, guys, what he's recommending on this really quick, he's got, the first thing that I noticed is he's got this action spring, old style arm here with the exposed springs. And we know that that's always an issue because those springs can do some extra vibration. Cables are loose, so if he moves that around, they start hitting on the springs. It becomes a mess. He's using a Rode microphone, a cheaper of the Rode microphones on an adapter, which could cause problems right there. I don't have, like Ronny said, the computer monitor, I really don't care. The camera will definitely shake if you hit the table in any way. The one thing I've always wished that they could do, that a company would do, is if they created a device that actually would attach to the legs of the table rather than the surface of the table. That would make a big difference in shake and noise. Not completely eliminating it, but a lot better than if you had it right on the table. But in a small environment, in a one-person shot type situation, I suppose this would work, but I would definitely be looking at some better equipment to hold the microphones and lights and cameras.
Alex Lindsay, your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with much of what's been said so far. When we look at this, I mean, this isn't bad as far as a nice, large light source there. One thing I can't hear it because we're in the show, so I haven't listened to it, but a lot of hard surfaces in that room. So unless he's buffering it somewhere, it would be, having this much distance between the mic and him. I don't know, maybe he's fixed that or figured it out, but it seems like it'd be a lot of work. Definitely don't like these arms. I hate them. So I definitely wouldn't use that. Definitely would not attach my camera to a long arm. This is the more, as has been said before, the more you have an arm here, the more vibration you're going to get, the more movement in the camera. So any kind of movement on there, I almost never attach my camera to my desk. I don't usually attach my mic to my desk either. so I like this mic is attached to another desk over there, so I don't have to worry about vibration and impact and so on and so forth. So, and the first thing usually when someone says, "Hey, I'm gonna," and Ryan says in the later video he uses lots of sound blankets. So there you go. Which I use. I can't say that I wouldn't use that because that's what I'm using. The first thing when someone says, I'm building a new studio, I just go, where are you putting up the grid? Because the grid just pulls all the stuff away from your desk and gets it out of the way. And so that'd be one of the first things that if I'm going to build a studio, the first thing I'm going to think about is how to put some kind of grid up to get that stuff away from me having to put things on the floor or on my desk.
And Guy Cochran.
Yeah, it needs more NDI. That's just the answer. More decimators, more NDI. So a nice big teleprompter like this one here, some grid. So he only has one light. So having a key and a fill would be nice. Having a big old Wacom tablet, like something like this 24-inch from Wacom. Maybe adding a panel so you can control your shots. What else? A sound devices mix P3, and like I said, more NDI, a bunch of switches over here with like these M4250s. That's all. Just that. That's all you need, Paul.
And watch out because eventually, wrong button. Eventually end up looking like this with way too many things and places to look every time you do a show. Let's get back to our next question.
Scott Wasserman in Detroit, Michigan. Kartmaster still the best for flying? My setup trip flying with gear is coming up. What tips do you have for traveling with a ton of cases?
And Alex Lindsay, who's done a ton of traveling with gear.
Yeah, so here are some Kartmasters in this is 3 Kartmasters in production. This was I don't know what trip it was, some trip many years ago. But to give you a sense of it, there's a couple things that I would recommend when you start thinking about doing this. Number one is that you'll notice that we only have 2. We try to minimize the number. We this one had more than we do now, but try to minimize the number of different cases that we use so that they'll stack nicely. So these are 1640s. We've got, I think these are actually 1650s. And then we have some of these are the SKBs that hold the racks, but we try to minimize the number of those that we do. You'll notice that we throw them upside down. The reason we throw them upside down is because it's easier to center them on the cart. So when you throw them upside down, you should be packing things so they can be thrown. If you're going to check it, they're going to get thrown around. So don't worry about throwing them upside down because they're going to go upside down at some point. If you didn't pack it that way, you're in trouble. So anyway, so if you flip it upside down, they should, when they match, they'll lock together. But then what we also do is we have this webbing here. So these are ratchet straps that we will ratchet these down to make sure that they're not going to go anywhere while we're moving them around. It really makes a huge difference to have some ratchet straps. Other things we do is we weigh. Of course, we have things on. These are notes. These are stickies that you can buy at Film Tools or whatever and stick them on there. We never say exactly what's on it. Usually we have a code of what that means so that we can look at the case and we know what's there, but it's not like cameras. So that's a great way to say, please open this case and take all my stuff. So we don't usually, we don't say what's on it, but we have codes that we know what those things are when they're on that area. We weigh all the cases. If you're doing media pass, you should be able to go up to 100 pounds and for most, but if you're flying overseas, a lot of times it can be limited to 70 pounds, and like, for instance, in the UK and Australia, it's 70 pounds. Like they won't pick it up if it's more than 70 pounds. So you got to really weigh everything. So you see a lot of our stuff sitting at just sub 70, 69 pounds, 68 pounds, 67. We have a flat weighing device in our office, but we also, when we travel, we take one with us that we can kind of lift it up with. And get the weight so that we can get those weights down to where we put it clearly on it. And here's why. When you put the weights clearly on the cases, TSA will, or the people who are checking you in, they'll look at the first couple. And if you're right on the mark, if you say 68.8 and they see 68.8, you go through 3 or 4 of them and you've got 20 cases, they just say, just leave them on the cart. Because they know that you've done this before. Make sure you have your, of course, tags, your addresses and everything else on it, contact information. Those are common. If you are, I don't know if I have one easily to grab. Let me see if I can. You can do a search for it. If you're taking Pelican cases, you can't do this if you're taking your own stuff, but if you're taking Pelican cases, you can use a media pass. And you're probably wondering, well, where do I get a media pass? I got mine from CVS. What I did is I took a picture and I put it together made it very nice and clean. And then I printed it at CVS and put it in a little case. And you can buy these little cases. I think I have an empty one around here somewhere, but these are the little, oh, I have one. There it is. So this is my media pass. I officially made it myself. And it is, that's what I use. And you show it to them. If you show it to them with regular luggage, you're ruining everything for everyone, including us, because you're not really moving media stuff. So don't do that. But if you have the Pelican cases and you have this, they'll typically make you pay $50 a bag, typically for up to 100 pounds for United, in domestic. And so those are some of the things to think about. Remember that you need 3 people. So you need one person at the curb, one person moving it, and one person at the other end. So if you have 2 people, this turns into a nightmare. So you need 3 people. So either somebody needs to drop this stuff off and be there at the airport, both on both ends, or you need to be flying with 3 people. Otherwise, you just need to reduce the number of cases to something that you can do by yourself. And so you got to know what the Kartmaster will hold. Make sure that all of the things that you do are there. But still remember, the problem you get into is being by yourself. It's really hard if you have to go to the bathroom, if you have to find something else. Like, it really helps to have another person, there with you to do that, either flying with you or meeting you there. To make that actually happen. But, many of us have done it by ourselves, but you just have to make sure that everything fits on that cart. I will say that I've never used anything as good as a Kartmaster when flying. And obviously we had a bunch of them. And there's so many, it folds up. It's just indestructible. And we moved to Kartmasters because we went to, I think we flew to, I want to say Davos or whatever, and came back with rock and rollers, and all the wheels were flat, and the rock and rollers slowly fall apart and everything else. And so getting the Kartmasters are just beasts, and they fold up really nicely. It costs you an extra $50 to check it, but when you get to the other side, it's pretty awesome. So, and the other thing I would recommend if you're not using Kartmasters is I take pictures of every time I see a luggage cart at an airport, I take pictures of it so that I know whether it lips up at the front or it doesn't. Because if it lips up in the front, that's like an airport that you don't want to land on with gear. And if it doesn't lip up on the front, then you know that you can put your cases down and have them hang over it. And so I take a lot of pictures of those as well.
Ronny?
Yeah, and just to add to what Alex said, if you're traveling across borders, it's really important to estimate the value of equipment you are bringing with you. And probably in most cases, if you have a lot of cases, you should probably have a carnet, which you need to fill out and prepay some money for, and that can save you in customs that are getting difficult if you travel into a country.
Yeah, in most cases, they don't want you to be importing and exporting things in the country, and that's why they want to make sure that what comes in goes out and what goes out comes in, so to speak, and they'll get taxed for it again. Not next question. I'm going to mention something else here. If you have questions you want to put into the show queue, the quickest way to do it is use askofficehours.global. Just put that into your system. I'll throw up a QR code here. You can capture if you'd like to. Askofficehours.global. Just type that into any web browser. It's going to get you to the quick question entry point, and you get your questions into our system, and then they will stay there for the next day if they don't get answered this day. Next question.
This one's from David Brady in New York City, New York, USA. We have a multi-function space with a Dante workflow. Our Yamaha DM3 will often throw errors, wrong word clock. Is this a PTP Masterclock issue or a bitrate mismatch?
And Alexander's going to help us out here. Alexander?
Sounds to me like a sample rate issue. In fact, actually, in Page, I just looked it up. That specific error is actually mentioned in the glossary. Page 380 in the DM3 manual. It says if you get wrong word clock, the sample rate setting of a device connected to a Dante network is faulty, so it cannot sync with the DM3. So if you look at Dante controller, oops, that's not Dante controller. Hold on a second here. Let me go back to, and that is not the right screen. Hold on. There we go. All right, Dante controller. If you go here and go to device view, and then select the device that we're talking about here. And then if we go to the status or device config tab, you will see this computer here is set to 48 kilohertz. Now, my DM3 in my setup here is the clock leader, which is also set to 48K. So whatever the master clock is set to, if it's 48 or 96, make sure all the devices that are connecting over Dante also match that. Otherwise, you will have a problem.
Alex Lindsay.
Sorry, and Mickey said that he's asking what is acting as your PTP version 1 clock leader. It is important to note that Dante does not do SRC, stick to a single sample rate, or use Dante Bridge if you need to traverse Dante networks running at different rates.
Next question.
Ronny Hofsø in Tromso, Norway. How to ingest YouTube video or live feeds into MimoLive as a source without using the screen capture or web browser capture? Is there a YouTube to Syphon or YouTube to NDI workflow option?
And one of our MimoLive gurus, Kai Cochran. Guy?
And not enough of a guru to answer this one, though. I was going to phone a friend who actually writes the software. Oliver's actually here in the U.S. This one, I spent a little time trying to figure it out to find an alternative, but there isn't really one, because when you use the web browser capture, you're not signed in, so you're going to get hit with ads and stuff that can go on. So that's a non-starter. The way to do it would just be another computer running NDI and NDI screen capture and then send it over. And that way, if you're logged into YouTube, you'll get a clean feed. Syphon's for a local machine, so you'd have to have something that was scraping the YouTube to be able to siphon it, add a Syphon receiver in MimoLive as a source. So I don't think that there's an easy way, but I will talk to Oliver and see if there is another option here.
And Ronny Hofsoy, do you have some help?
Yeah, so we tend to have different cameras coming in, and I actually, when Guy was talking, this is actually a Cochrane question because I'm answering it myself. I was actually thinking of just using an Apple TV I have available, and just so that was a good idea, Guy. I would definitely do this, and this is the picture I'm trying to show you all. This is actually my home city, and it's sunny. And that is really, really strange to watch it.
That's
This
gorgeous,
is, where I live.
Ronny. That's lovely. Alex, you want to get in on this?
Yeah, as David Brady says, if it's a VOD, I would definitely use something like Downy and download it. I don't use any playback from YouTube as a live from YouTube. If I'm given, if you give me more than 5 or 6 minutes, I'm going to download it from YouTube and put it into a playout system, whatever I'm going to use. I don't want to. It's just the playback tools are way too crude to be able to make that actually work. That's not what it's built for. For live outputs, what I use, because I use an ATEM a lot, is exactly what you were talking about, which is I use Apple TVs for this because you can be signed in. It can be your account. You get it if it's a live feed. You get it running, and it's running full tilt in full screen without any debris across the top of it. And if you're just trying to refer to it, you don't need to stop and start it. That works well. It gets a little dicey if you're trying to stop and start the feed. And I don't have a hard solution for that. I think you can use keystrokes. So I know that some folks that do this. I just was watching someone with like 37,000 people watching as she was watching a legal case, and I'm pretty sure that she's using a Stream Deck, and so it does the keystrokes for start, stop, everything else inside of it, and she's pulling it from a web page. She's a screen capture, and then she's able to stop and start it and fall behind a little bit and then catch back up again. And so there's a couple things that are there, but that's what I would recommend.
Next question.
Tim Snyder in Louisville, Kentucky, looking to mic up a drumline instructor standing in front of a drumline. I want to get reactions of this person. However, the sound pressures coming from the drumline will be massive. What would be the best way to mic this person?
Alexander?
Probably a high-quality head-worn mic that's cardioid. That's you want basically a unidirectional microphone, not an Omni one, because it's going to pick up a lot of sound around that person.
100% agree with that. I had to do a video once inside a place that was so noisy you literally had to wear OSHA protection or it would damage your hearing in a couple of minutes. And I had to do an interview in there, and that's exactly what I did. I used actually an aerobic instructor type mic, but in front of the person who was speaking and right at the corner of their mouth. The inverse square principle works for you rather than against you. And we were able to hear that audio clearly, even over that ridiculously loud noise. So that will work fine for you. Thanks for the question, Tim. Next question.
This one is from John Borntrager in Cincinnati, Ohio. An amazing BTS, that's behind the scenes, and side-by-side music video for OK Go's latest video. Discuss.
I think I watched that a while back, and it was very interesting. If I recall correctly, if this is the one you're talking about, it's kind of on a big salt flat out there, and they're driving through all sorts of Rube Goldberg type stuff. It was a very complex thing. OK Go is known for that.
I think this is a different music video.
Oh, is it different? Did they come up with another one? This was just about a month ago.
Yeah, no, they've been pushing a bunch of them out.
Okay.
So they were using some control arms here. Let me see if I can pull these up.
All right.
So, to do some of these, they get a little out of hand. So here you can see these remote control arms. I think that those might be like car construction versions. They're not the actual, But you can
So
see that there's a
industrial
lot of
robotics. Yeah.
There's a lot of rigging going on to make all of this work here. So the thing about these guys, I mean, if you haven't seen it in the past, they really push the envelope of what they can do with their they get into some kind of concept, and they really started this way with, I think that their first one was with treadmills, but they're always kind of pushing the outside envelope of what you can do with a music video. I haven't watched this end to end yet. Thanks, John, for pointing out that it's there, and we'll take a closer look at it.
Yeah, always do interesting work. Next question.
Pedro G. Gonzalez III in Washington, D.C. Ronny, did you find out more info on the amazing 4K live stream in Tromso, Norway?
Ronny, any thoughts on this?
I don't have the specific model. They said it was a surveillance camera that are being used for surveying. They had a PTZ camera there before, and that seems to have changed now. So this is a fixed angle, and it's mostly used for tourists, etc., that are hitting up Tromso webcam. And I think this channel has 1.6 million views so far. And this is actually just on top of a project that is called Verve, which is a big building project with I think it's more like 300 apartments in this area. Alex?
Yeah, it doesn't. When you look at it, it doesn't look like it's actually full frame either. It's a true 16:9. So definitely, it seems like some version of a security camera that isn't quite hitting the. There's other ways to do this. So I guess this is probably the easiest.
It's something they can take us through on Star Filter.
If I had that many people, I think if I had that many people watching, I would probably let's see. There's only 25 watching now, but there was a time when we jumped up there, and it seemed like there were thousands of people watching. So maybe it goes up and down, but I probably would put a better camera up. I have to admit that people have been talking. Jason Snell was talking about a bird cam yesterday on the show, or 2 days ago on the show, and then I started looking at bird cams, and I feel like I have to build a really high-end bird cam. I don't know if I can not do that. So I've got some extra cameras and put a big 4K live stream from a bird cam. It feels like it needs to happen.
Ronny, come back.
When I'm replacing our A7S3s, I'm going to put one of them in a cage and throw it to the night sky and have 4K live streaming over Aurora Borealis. I guess I would have more than 23 viewers on that camera.
Absolutely. I used to do some volunteer work for a group in Arizona called Liberty Wildlife, and they used to rehabilitate eagles. And occasionally they would get one of their repairing eagles in who would have lay an egg, and it would just be fascinating to have a really high-def camera on some of those big raptors. Fascinating. By the way, if you value what we do here, there are a few ways you can help. You can like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can volunteer at officehours.global/volunteer and become part of the team that makes all of this possible, or you can simply donate at officehours.global/donate. We are a 501c3. Next question.
David Brady in New York City, New York, USA, working on a powerautomate flow to parse ICS files to create new items in a shared calendar. Logic works out, but the new item is 4 hours off. Any ideas how to troubleshoot?
Alex, can you help out?
My guess is that it has something to do with wherever the script is being run, what it's considering the zero time, and it sounds like it may be looking at UTC, so or Greenwich Mean Time, GMT, UTC. So it's off by that. So it probably depends. It's probably flexible based on what time of the year it is for you, because we have dumb things in our laws about time. So anyway, given that it's 4 hours off, I think you're 4 hours behind UTC. So my guess is that it's running UTC. And so it's just a matter of probably in the logic making that change as needed, or setting all those events to UTC or Zulu.
Yeah, I don't know. You didn't say what kind of a phone or source for this, but I did notice that on one of my iPhones, I had it registered. My home somehow got switched to some odd thing, and it messed up all the time. So it does sometimes look at the host setting on the device, and it sets your base time zone by that. Next question.
This one's from me. I am familiar with the Zoom IT installer on macOS where plist can configure the client with specific settings to always be on. I need to do this on Windows, but haven't done so yet. What config file do I need to make?
Ronny, can you help him out?
I think there is something called zoom install.ini, so in any file for that. You just have to do some searches, and I haven't done it myself. I'm a Mac-only user, both personally and professionally, and tend to stay away from Windows machines.
Next question.
Chuck Swan in Bristol, Wisconsin. On a previous show, Alex mentioned that he uses the OWC4M2 SSD enclosure, as do we. Fan noise is an issue. I have tried replacing with Noctua fans, but still produces a lot of white noise. Any advice?
Jeffrey Powers, can you help?
Well, beyond moving the case farther away from where your production happens, the biggest thing about this 4M2 is, isn't it a PCIe 3.0 card? Maybe it'd just be a good time to upgrade. So that would be my recommendation, because you start taking things apart, you start replacing things, you're voiding warranties, and there's a chance that it doesn't come back.
Alex?
Yeah, I use them. There is some white noise. I guess in the environment that I'm in, it doesn't bother me. Like that we have it there. I have it in a kind of in an enclosure that I can shut. So I just close it off. So I'm just using space instead of trying to space and additional walls to have it be quieter when I need it to be quiet. But for the most part, when I'm editing until the final little bit, when we're working on audio, I don't really care. Like I don't notice it. I mean, it's there, but it doesn't affect me until I'm thinking about audio, and then usually that's when we start putting it somewhere else if we need to.
Let's go to our next question.
Rayon Smith in Trinidad, West Indies. This vid shows Ryan Coogler comprehensive and epic explanation of how they shot his movie Sinners, and so much about cinema, film recording, and delivery format in modern theaters. Please show a snippet mid-clip.
I'm not sure we can do that, but I'll check. Alex?
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
But because the place to watch this video, by the way, is on YouTube, not on Facebook. Facebook, the version that you have up there is really, I mean, Facebook is kind of, I don't know why people watch video on Facebook. So usually the first thing I do if I see a video on Facebook is I go to YouTube and I find that footage, because it's going to be higher resolution and higher quality. So anyway, if you go to, it's on Kodak's site. And this is the aspect ratios with Ryan Coogler. It is unbelievable. Like, I mean, it makes me want to, I mean, I didn't have really any plan to watch this movie, and I'm probably going to go see the 1570 version, because he explains, what 15 perf is and how it works, all the different formats that they're using. And I think he produced this, he's talking about the XD formats here. So it is really, really an amazing rollout of how all these film formats work, and it looks like they kind of tried to support as many as they could. So anyway, it's really, really great video. I highly recommend it. I recommend watching it in a proper way on YouTube, because it's much higher resolution. It's on the Kodak page, but I am, as I said, probably going to, because of this video, probably, and knowing that they put that much effort into it, I'm going to try to find a 1570 version of it if it's still out in the Metreon.
Next question.
Scott Tupper in Livermore, California, USA. Mobile insert studio, small yet practical.
Jeffrey Powers has some thoughts on it. Jeffrey?
Well, it is somewhat practical. I mean, it's not a big production truck. It's you get into the back of a van. They got candy in the form of video, where you can do interviews without having to have the crew go into your house and set up lighting and microphones and anything like that. So if you have it in an area that is that has a drive-by live, then this might be perfect for that.
Alex?
we've used these a couple times, these types of things before, and they often work great. I mean, and it is one of the big problems you get into is you get into. I'm just trying to see them. Yeah, they're showing here a little bit. It's used fairly often because here's the reality. Is that most insert studios are just a monitor behind somebody. And so it really is something that is a relatively easy thing for them to do. And the problem you get into with a lot of, number one is a lot of the insert studios are not modern anymore. So there's no real advantage to going to them. There's a handful of them like Media3 and a couple others that do really, really good work. But for the most part, no one's invested in their insert studios for the last 10 years. And so they're low quality, bad lighting, bad backgrounds, everything. If you watch the Sunday morning news, chats that we have here in the U.S., you can just see this wide array of bad insert studios that are being used. And so this one looks more modern than what you would normally get. The other problem you get into is just getting VIPs to want to go across town. So they just don't want to go to, even though like a New York or LA might have 3 or 4 or 5 of these, where do a lot of people don't want to do that. Or they're down in San Mateo and they don't want to come up to San Francisco, all these things. So being able to take someone and I'll give them a great place to go. There's a bunch of things here that when we've built these into studios like this, we do a couple of other things. We make sure that, we want to put this on both the chair and the desk and the monitor. We like to be able to have those on hydraulic lifts so that we can fine tune them to the person that's coming in. Same thing with the TV monitor here. We want to put it on either a hot pod or on some sort of mount that will allow us to go up and down relatively easily. So those are other things that we want to oftentimes put into these places. So I think that those are some of the things that we might change, but overall these are super useful. The sound works pretty well. The challenge you get into is street sound, and because you're not really floating the room, in here. Now this looks like it's being done in a toy hauler, which is pretty common. We like to use box trucks because we get a little bit more room to do that. And where the really nice ones that we've worked with, and I haven't built them and I haven't used them for maybe a decade, but there's a company that had a double expando truck. So it was able to open up. It would get to where it needed to go. It would open up. And it had a little bit more insulation in it, but it also just felt really spacious. And the people would walk in and just be like blown away. Because if for some reason a double expando, you walk in and you suddenly realize it just feels way bigger than it should when you walk in. And so people were really impressed with that. Anyway, so those are the things, but it allows you to drive right up to their house, drive up to a parking lot that's, a mile from their house or half a mile from their house, whatever that is, and let them just jump in and be part of that connection. Latency is an issue. A lot of these are using some kind of satellite, or they're using internet, or they're using some kind of bonded internet, or they're doing lots of those kinds of things. So when you use these, you tend not to get the tier 1 latency that you would get from something like from the Switch. So you're going to get a longer latency, so you can see people nodding more. That's the only downside of this.
Yeah, for me, the question is, are you looking to rent one for use, or you're looking for operator kind of some small business thing where you do it? And for me, that's always just a matter of where your audience is and where you are. In the bigger cities, there might be a market for this kind of thing to be used a lot. I know that I had to do a beer festival once, and we wanted a big LED screen, so there was a company, but there were none in Arizona, so we had to drive in from Los Angeles. And, it was maybe $1,500 for the day. It worked out. We had a 40,000 people festival. Not a big expense there, but I just realized that it's kind of a hassle to have something come in from far away. So if your business is depending on sending this out, just know your market well and know whether the demand is there to keep it consistently paid for. Next question.
This one is from Paul Vahus in Austin, Texas. What do you think about this ultimate one-man band YouTube studio in terms of audio, video, and lighting?
I hadn't seen which one this particular is. We talk about this a lot. A YouTube studio is a popular thing these days, some sort of small, as Alex was mentioning, insert stage that you do somewhere that allows people to come in and go online and get good quality audio and video sound protected so that it functions correctly. But I didn't track that down to see this particular one. Maybe Alex has had time to now that we've been talking about it for a minute. Alex, did you see it?
Yeah, it's the same guy, just later. Guy. You know, so obviously he has. This was 2 years ago. The first one we saw was 5 years ago, and this is 2 years ago. So it sounds like he's going to be due for another one here. But here you can see him kind of. I think he's breaking it down here. Let's see if I can pull it back.
It looks like a training video.
Obviously, he figured it out.
So there you are. Yeah.
Here's a lot more of that makes more sense when it comes to lots of these. Even though it looks like a lot of hard lines here, he keeps it taking moving it forward. Yeah. But you can see that he's kind of figured out, it's nice to have much larger. You can see from the first one, his light source is much larger than it was before to make that actually work. Still using this kind of weird setup here. But anyway, I think that obviously it's greatly improved. And he's starting to show you where he goes. Again, I think that once you start doing all of this, I still don't understand why you don't get all this stuff out of the way. Once you start doing studios, you start building grids. If you've gone through this much work, it's kind of like, we don't understand anymore. Like, why aren't you using a grid? So, but he looks great. But I think that you would find that whole space would feel a lot more opened and more free if he just got everything off the ground.
Thank you for watching today. We truly appreciate it every time you show up. You, our audience, are one of our main constituencies here. You're the reason we do this show, so thank you for paying attention to it. Thank you for coming in every day, and thank you for your questions. What really drive this show. Also to the panelists who show up every day and provide all their expertise. A huge plus positive kudos to everybody who shows up and does this. And finally, the third constituency that you should never forget, our back-end crew, the people who are behind the scenes quietly, not punching buttons, but also doing other things that you never see. The people who are meeting and getting the shows planned, and the people who are running the back-end infrastructure, and everybody who is a part of Office Hours. Thank you to all of you for making this possible. Our flawless traversal today, 35,000 miles. That's 57,000 kilometers. That's how far we would have had to travel if we went to ask everybody these questions in person. And that is 280 million bananas for scale. I do not want to mess up the bananas for scale because it's so important. Thank you for watching. We appreciate your time. We'll be here tomorrow. See you then.
Justin James said that consumers don't want grids. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's because they don't know what the grid is.
And Chuck Swan just popped in with auto pulls for tight spaces. I've got I got to tell you, 5, 6 auto pulls over my head.
Just like grids.
Grids. Yeah. Having
like the first thing I do, like it's just like, let's put a grid in. So that
I just have to find we shoot a vendor in Europe
for speed rail.
Are you looking for that or the IFF?
I've seen something in Germany that makes, maybe I'll shoot Jonas an email.
I'm pretty sure Hollander is everywhere. So,
how do you spell it?